So New Year's Eve, the final MMA event of 2022, Bellator versus Rizin, and in the main event, a huge fight between AJ McKee and Roberto Souza. You've got 5 of Bellator's best fighters taking on 5 of Rizin's best fighters, and representing Bellator, we've got Gadzhi, Rabadanov, Kyoji, Horiguchi, Juan, Archuleta, Patricio, Pitbull, and AJ McKee. And as for Rizin, we've got Koji, Takeda, Hiromasa, Ougikubo, we have got Chul, Kim, we've got Kleber, Koike, and then we've also got in the main event, of course, for Rizin, Roberto Souza. So 5 fights on this card, Bellator versus Rizin. And folks, if you haven't yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more MMA here on the channel. Next year, of course, we will be having Bellator predictions, we'll be having PFL, and of course UFC as well. So go make sure to hit that subscribe button down below if you are new to the channel. Let's do it. And I'll be straight up honest with you, I'm not the biggest Rizin fan. I think Rizin is one of the, in the ranks of the promotions I watch the most, they're probably one of the lower ones that I do consistently. I don't really consistently watch Rizin. I'm aware of what's going on and I'm up to date, but like I don't really watch Rizin all that much, if I'm being honest with you, just because it's kind of hard to watch Rizin. You have to pay for pay-per-views on Fight a lot. But anyways, like if I had to rank the promotions I watch a lot, of course I watch the UFC all the time, watch Bellator all the time, PFL, and then one championship, and then probably Rizin after, and then maybe like Cage Warriors on top of that too. So I don't know. But Koji Takeda taking on Gadzhi Rabadanov. Obviously, I was most familiar with Takeda with his fight against Spike Carlisle. He lost that fight. Carlisle went over to Rizin. He picked up the win. He submitted him with the guillotine choke in the second round. For Takeda, since then, back-to-back wins. He beat Johnny Case a couple months ago in Rizin, and then beat Zach Zane as well. After that, Zane, the win was by rear naked or armbar. Given Zach Zane gets submitted a lot. I mean, Islam Mamedov did it in Eagle FC. Luis Pena, Bob Ross did it in Titan FC. Rabadanov did it in Eagle FC as well. It's not the greatest feat submitting Zach Zane, and Takeda did what he's supposed to do against Zach Zane. He submitted him in 3 minutes. Now he's going to be taking on Gadzhi Rabadanov, who Bellator is really marketing as one of their, higher prospects that they do have, because he is 3-0 in their promotion. He came in, beat Daniel Carey in his first fight, knocked him out. Then he beat JJ Wilson as a fight where I picked JJ Wilson to win. Rabadanov goes in there, beats him by decision. Then most recently, a couple months ago, he beat Bobby King, beat him by unanimous decision as well. And Rabadanov, again, an all-around really good fighter. His striking is getting a lot better, and of course, always looking for that takedown as well. Chael Sutton said it in his breakdown of the Bellator versus Rizin card. Really, he said that Rabadanov uses his kicks to set up his takedowns, uses punches to set up his takedowns as well. That's what he does. And if he's able to do that, he should be able to take down Takeda. I wouldn't be too concerned with Rabadanov taking down Koji Takeda and Takeda submitting him off his back. I don't think that's going to really play too much of a factor into this fight. Takeda's not horrible. He's really not. He's really good on the ground. But on the feet, I like Rabadanov as well. So I think Rabadanov's got him beat up there. And on the ground, again, like Spike Carlisle was able to submit Koji Takeda. And there's nothing against Spike Carlisle. But Carlisle, I know he just did fight AJ McKee and he did go 3 rounds with McKee. But, this is a guy in Spike Carlisle who went to the UFC, went 1-2. And given he lost to Billy Cordentillo and Bill Algeo, but that's just what I'm saying. Like, he didn't beat the best guys over there. Or didn't, really win too many fights over there, beat Alon Cruz, right? So I think Gadzhi Rabadanov able to go in there. I think he's able to pick up this victory. I like Rabadanov a lot in this fight. I think he's able to get it done by decision. I think the striking's good for Rabadanov here. I think the ass of the wrestling, which I think he's going to, he should be able to, find the takedown. I don't think he's going to get submitted on the ground either. So give me Gadzhi Rabadanov to win this first fight for Bellator by unanimous decision. Next up, we have got Kyoji Horiguchi taking on Hiromasa Ougikubo. In this fight, of course, you got Horiguchi, who in his last one did go back to Rizin. He beat Yuto Hakumura, beat him by arm triangle choke in the second round. Given though, his opponent was 14-11-2 going into that fight. It's a guy who was, coming off back-to-back losses in Rizin as well. It was a fight that Horiguchi was supposed to win. Horiguchi got back on his winning ways with that fight, because before that for Horiguchi, back-to-back losses. The Sergio Pettis fight, again, it's just a tough night for Horiguchi. He's winning that fight going into that 4th round. He is probably up 3-0, maybe 2-1. Pettis goes in there in that 4th round. Boom, spinning back fist, puts Horiguchi to sleep. Sergio Pettis wins the championship or retains the championship, and really Horiguchi was on his way to regaining his belt, but Pettis picks up the win. In the Patchy Mix fight, Patchy Mix is good, man. Horiguchi's a big favorite going into that one. A lot of people underestimated how good Patchy Mix was truly on the ground, and since, Horiguchi lasted in that fight. You look at the Magomedov fight, Patchy Mix goes in there, he submits him in the 2nd round, right? Like, Patchy Mix is really good on the ground. He has shown that. He beat Gallagher by submitting him, and Horiguchi's really the only guy to go the full 5 with Patchy Mix without being submitted. Again, you know how good Magomedov is on the ground, but Patchy Mix is able to go in there and put him to sleep. So Horiguchi loses that fight, of course. Most recently, a Rizin 38 picking up the victory by arm triangle choke. His run in between, winning the Bellator championship after beating Darren Caldwell, he goes back to Rizin, loses to Kai Skura, loses that fight, gets knocked down in the first round, but comes back comes back a year later, of course, after the pandemic, beats Skura in their rematch, knocks him out in the first round at Rizin 26. Huge victory that got him back to the Rizin Bantamweight Championship. And now he's back taking on more Rizin opponents, and of course, he's taking on Ougikubo here, and for Hiromasa, he fought in the Ultimate Fighter, did all right over there. He won 3 fights in the Ultimate Fighter, beat Alexandre Pantoja, but then ran into Tim Elliott, which I believe was in the final. I believe it was in the final of the Ultimate Fighter season that year. Didn't end up getting the UFC contract, so he goes to Rizin, picked up a lot of wins recently. He lost to Skura back in 2020, got knocked out the soccer kick for the vacant Bantamweight Championship. And then after that for Ougikubo, comes back after the Skura fight, wins a bunch of fights, wins 5 in a row, beats Skura in the rematch on New Year's Eve last year, wins their Bantamweight Grand Prix over there in Rizin, and most recently, though, losing to Chul Kim in his last fight by unanimous decision just a couple months ago, and of course, Kim will be fighting in the fight after this against Juan Archuleta. But Ougikubo is really good. I mean, again, you saw his run in the Ultimate Fighter. He's pretty good over there. He is really good on the ground if he can threaten a lot down there. His stand-up game isn't bad also, but I think Horiguchi does have the pure advantage and the big advantage striking-wise against Ougikubo in this fight. And that's why I'm going to be taking Kyoji Horiguchi. I think Horiguchi, really, if you are worrying about Horiguchi's ground game and his ability to fight off submissions, or really just his ability to get back up to his feet, I really think that's more of a patchy mix thing than a Kyoji Horiguchi thing. I think really the Magomedov fight really spells that out for you, showing how good patchy mix truly is down there. I think Horiguchi is able to keep this fight standing. I think if he does get taken down, I think he should be able to work his way back up to his feet. And I really don't think this fight's going to last all that long. I think Horiguchi is really in his element over there in Japan. He's fighting at home. I think Horiguchi's able to go in there. I think he's able to land that big first round knockout. I mean, it just feels like this is a Kyoji Horiguchi type event. I think Horiguchi goes in there, really puts on a show for the fans, and knocks out Ougikubo here in the first round. Give me Kyoji Horiguchi by first round knockout. As good as Juan Archuleta is, I think this is the second toughest fight for all the Bellator fighters on the card. You got Juan Archuleta taking on Chul Kim, and I think I'm not aware of the odds right now in these fights, but I'm pretty sure the Bellator fighters are going to be the favorites in every single fight that they have right now. But I think this is one of the tougher fights for Bellator's fighters here, and Juan Archuleta taking on Chul Kim, a guy in Kim who we just talked about, won his last fight against Ougikubo back at Rizin 38, beats him by unanimous decision, and of course he was the Road FC champion. He lost the championship fight against Haejin Park back in 2021, but then got the championship back in their rematch 6 months later. He got submitted in the first one by guillotine choke. The second fight he wins by knockout 5 minutes and 9 seconds into the fight. Gets him with a head kick, finishes the fight that way, wins that Road FC championship. And Chul Kim, a really good fighter on the feet, really good fighter on the ground. He can mix it up. And of course, the former double champ over there in Road FC, because he won the Bantamweight Championship back in 2017, won the Featherweight Championship 5 years later, but still held both championships over there in that promotion. Good fighter, man. 31 years old, coming out of South Korea. Again, can really mix it up on the feet. He's got a really good striking, powerful striker up there as well. And if he has to get it done on the ground, he can as well. But I really do anticipate this fight being a striking fight. Juan Archuleta doesn't go much to the wrestling, so I think you are going to see this fight stand up. You're going to see this fight be a stand-up fight for most of its entirety. And for Juan Archuleta, got back on the winning track in his last fight, beating Enrique Barzola by unanimous decision. It was a close fight where I picked Archuleta. Going into it, I thought it was a close fight. I picked Archuleta. He picked up the W, winning that one by decision. And both fights before that for him were championship fights. He lost his championship to Sergio Pettis by unanimous decision back in 2021. Pettis picked up the win by decision. And then after that, Archuleta turned that into the Ralphie and Stotts fight. Of course, Pettis was supposed to be Pettis versus Stotts. Pettis got injured, so replacing Sergio Pettis in the Grand Prix and making this fight interim championship fight was Juan Archuleta. He ends up losing to Ralphie and Stotts. The fight that I thought he was doing pretty well until he got knocked out, honestly. I mean, Archuleta was surprising me. I thought Stotts was going to really run right through him and win a pretty decisive decision, but Archuleta held his own early in the fight, but eventually Ralphie and Stotts got him with a head kick, finished him. Of course, it was a fight where Archuleta was like a plus 250 underdog in, but still, Stotts picked up the victory with that head kick knockout finish in the third round. But don't like underestimate how good Archuleta is. Obviously, we're talking about how good Patchy Mix is recently, but Archuleta beat him by decision to win the championship in the first place. Archuleta is a really good fighter. He is a really good fighter. who I think should have a lot of success in this fight. I think Kim is a very good fighter as well. And if, Bellator was to lose a fight, this wouldn't surprise me that this would be that fight. But I am going to take Juan Archuleta here. I think Archuleta still is good enough to the point. I think the Enrique Barzola fight really did prove that Archuleta really is still on top of his game. Again, I am impressed with Kim. I think he's a good fighter. I think he definitely has the ability to knock out Juan Archuleta. I think both these guys have the ability to knock each other out. But I'm going to take Archuleta. I think he's able to avoid damage here. I think Archuleta is able to stay out of danger. And I think Juan Archuleta is going to beat Chul Kim. I have got Juan Archuleta to win this fight, making it 3-0 now for Bellator. Give me Juan Archuleta to win this one by unanimous decision. So just 3 months after going the full 5 in his championship win over Adam Borks, Patricio Pitbull is back, and he's in the co-main event, and he is under... Man, he beat in his last 2 fights ago in AJ McKee, but it's fine. Patricio Pitbull taking on Kleber Koike here in this one. For Patricio Pitbull, they call him the GOAT over there at Bellator for good reason. He is the Bellator greatest of all time. He's won most of his fights in the promotion. He is 22-5 in Bellator. And when you look at his last couple of fights, beating Adam Borks, complete domination for Patricio Pitbull in that fight, winning it by unanimous decision and retaining his gold. Before that, beating AJ McKee to regain the championship. It was a fight that Patricio was a plus 250 underdog, and he goes in there. He shows why he is still that guy. He beats AJ McKee. He shows that he is still, the champ over there. He's 35 years old, but he can still do it. He beats McKee in the rematch after, of course, losing the first fight where he got stunned by a head kick. AJ McKee locks him in the guillotine, standing guillotine, and Pitbull loses the belt that way. But besides that one AJ McKee fight, Patricio Pitbull has still showed that he is still truly elite in this weight class, and that truly he is one of the best featherweights in the world. You look at his run before losing to McKee. Of course, he comes in there the long reigning featherweight champion. He picks up the championship by beating Daniel Strauss. He wins that one by guillotine choke, retains it against Daniel Whiteshall. He beats Emmanuel Sanchez after that by unanimous decision. He knocks out Michael Chandler for the lightweight championship after that. Then he beats Juan Archuleta again for the featherweight championship. Then after that, he beats Pedro Carvalho. It was a fight where he's like a minus 700 favorite him, but still, he knocks out Carvalho, takes on Emmanuel Sanchez after that in the Grand Prix, submits him with a guillotine choke, loses to McKee, but then beats McKee again, and then now here we are. Of course, he's vacated the lightweight championship. That is now in the possession, of course, of Usman Nurmagomedov. But Pitbull still got scary power for being a featherweight. He does, and his ground game is still really good as well. I mean, for Kleber Koike here, he's gonna try to take down Pitbull because I don't think on the feet he really stands a chance. When you look at Koike, really good submission specialist here. You look at his last 8 wins in Rizin, or less 7 wins in Rizin, all by submission. You're looking at a Darce choke in the first round, triangle choke in the second, triangle in the second, rear naked in the second, rear naked in the first, and the triangle in the second. He is really good on the ground. That is where he wants fights. Now, his last loss does come all the way back in 2018. He fought on KSW, lost the featherweight championship fight against Mateusz Gamrot. Of course, Gamrot now a top 5, 10-ish, of course, lightweight in the UFC. But Koike goes in there. The fight was contested at featherweight, by the way. Lose to Gamrot by decision. But since then, again, all submission victories for him. And, he's going to have to submit Patricio Pitbull if he's going to try to win this fight. I mean, I just don't think it's all that possible, really, because Pitbull does not get submitted. He is so good on the ground. He is, high-level Brazilian black belt on the ground. And really, again, he got submitted by AJ McKee, but that was more of a product of him getting stunned in the feet and then McKee locking up a guillotine and submitting him standing. I don't anticipate Koike really, stunning Patricio Pitbull that much. Just that's not really what he does. And we've seen him against some of the elite fighters before. Well, I'm looking at Mateusz Gamrot, and Gamrot was able to weather the storm and win it by decision. For Pitbull here, I think as long as this fight's in the feet, he is going to make Kleber Koike look lost in the feet. I think that's what this fight's going to be. And I think if this fight is going to the ground, Patricio Pitbull is good enough on the ground with his jiu-jitsu to avoid getting submitted and avoid putting himself in a horrible position. I think Patricio Pitbull is going to win this fight. I think this is one of the easier ones to call just because, and it's not a slight on Koike's opponent here. No, it is Patricio Pitbull, and that's how good he is, really. I mean, you look at the fight against Borch, you look at the fight against AJ McKee in the rematch, he's still really good at this point of his career. He's still got the power. I think this is going to be somewhat similar to the Pedro Carvalho fight. I don't think it's that big of a mismatch, but I think to the point where, okay, Pitbull's going to weather the storm right away. He's going to put it on Koike, and he's going to knock him out. So give me Patricio Pitbull. Give me the Bellator GOAT. I think Pitbull's going to win this one. I got him to win this one by first round knockout. I think it's going to be an easy night in the office for him. 3 months after defending his championship against Borch, give me Patricio Pitbull to win this one. He's going to knock out Kleber Koike in the very first round. Main event time. We have got AJ McKee, the mercenary, taking on Roberto Souza. I think this is the toughest fight for any Bellator fighter on this card. I think it is. This is the toughest fight. AJ McKee versus Roberto Souza is an incredibly tough fight. Roberto Souza is so good on the ground. He is so talented down there. I mean, you look at a guy in Tafik Musayev, who comes into Bellator's first fight. He knocks out Sydney Outlaw. He's got a win over the former Bellator lightweight champion, Patricio Pitbull. He comes into Bellator. He beats Sydney Outlaw in the first round in 30 seconds. This guy is likely fighting Usman Nurmagomedov next for the championship. And Musayev, of course, a former Rizin champ. You know where his last loss comes from, and his only loss in the last, I don't know, 8 years comes from. It comes from Roberto Souza. Souza was able to get him to the ground and submit him with the triangle choke. That's how Musayev lost his championship. And now, here we go. He's going to be fighting AJ McKee. Quick correction: Musayev was the he was the Grand Prix champion. He fought for the lightweight championship. It was vacant. Lost to Souza. Souza, of course, now the lightweight champion for Bellator or for Rizin. And he's taken on the former featherweight champion and AJ McKee, of course, who has gone up to lightweight since his second loss or his second fight to Patricio Pitbull. He, of course, had that one fight against Spike Carlisle. It's a fight where, like, okay, AJ McKee's supposed to beat Spike Carlisle. And that's what he did. He beat him by decision. It wasn't, it was a closer fight than I thought it was going to be because I didn't think Spike Carlisle was going to make it 15 minutes. But McKee did what he was supposed to do. He's the co-main event for Pitbull on that card. Now, he is main eventing over Pitbull, who is the world champion. But I get it because that's how good Roberto Souza is, and he should be the main event spot because he's Rizin's best guy. I think they are sending on this card. I mean, his last win's a big win over Johnny Case. He beats him by armbar in the first round. It's for the lightweight championship. Case is a solid fighter. He has lost his last 2 fights. He lost to Takeda in his last one, who, of course, is fighting Rabadanov. But Case is a good fighter, really good boxer. But of course, Souza does what he's supposed to do to him. But I think it just in this, in Rizin, Roberto Souza is so much better than all these guys on the ground. That's just because, like, even a guy like Tafik Musayev's incredibly talented. Like, I'm really big on this guy, but he's not. Musayev's not a guy who's going to be grappling with you. I think that's why he's going to have a lot of problems when he takes on Usman Nurmagomedov, assuming that's what's next. I think Nurmagomedov will likely win. It's a wrestler versus a striker. You usually know how that fight does end up. And considering, yes, Musayev does have a lot of power, still, though, I think Usman's going to be able to take him down, probably hold him down. And we saw in the Roberto Souza fight against Musayev, he was able to get Musayev down. He submitted him right away in 1 minute and 12 seconds, and you know how good Musayev really is. But AJ McKee is very talented on the ground as well. And it's not going to be a walk in the park for Roberto Souza, just take down McKee and submit him. I don't think that's going to be the case, right? You know how good McKee is on the ground. You've seen his excellent submissions that he's pulled off against Darian Caldwell, against Derek Campos. You can count the Patricio one, but that was more of just a knockout towards the submission. He's locked up the submission at the end. If he kept punching, he would have knocked out Pitbull. But, you get what I mean, right? McKee is really good on the ground, and McKee should be able to fight off a lot of spots that Souza is going to potentially put him in. But again, I think this is a very tough fight. But, as much as I'm saying, though, how talented and how much of a specialist Souza is on the ground, how good McKee is on the feet, right? So if McKee can keep this fight standing, which I think he's going to, I don't even know if he's going to get taken down. I think McKee's going to be able to keep the fight standing. Similar to what I said in the Koike fight against Patricio Pitbull, AJ McKee should have his way on the feet. Theoretically, he should. And that's what I'm banking on here. This is probably the fight that I'm least confident in on all the fights in this card. I think next up we'd say the Archuleta fight, but still, I think McKee's able to win, which would make it a clean sweep for Bellator. Which, in theory, it should be a clean sweep for Bellator. They are a higher level promotion than what Rizin is. Let's just be honest. Bellator markets themselves as the second highest promotion in the world, which I think they are, honestly, considering the way the last PFL season went. I think they definitely are the second best promotion in the world. And, I think AJ McKee's going to go out there and prove it. I think McKee's going to keep this fight standing. I don't think he's going to let Roberto Souza take him down. And give me AJ McKee, give me the mercenary. I think he's going to go in there. I think it will be a late first-round knockout for AJ McKee, finishing the card for Bellator at 5-0 on the road in Japan against Rizin. So, folks, thank you for watching our Bellator versus Rizin predictions here on the channel. If you haven't yet, though, make sure that subscribe button down below for more MMA in the new year of 2023. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Give us a for watching. And Mamba forever.